This Russian armored vehicle continues advancing, completely ignoring the Ukrainian tank right beside it. As a result, it is destroyed by the Ukrainian tank's strike. And here's another Russian tank firing toward Ukrainian positions, until something unexpected happens. A landmine takes it out. Since the early days of the war, Ukraine has demonstrated an impressive resistance against Russia's superior armored forces. In particular, Ukraine's development of low-cost yet highly effective FPV drones has significantly altered the course of the conflict. Modern Russian tanks, each worth approximately $3 to $5 million, have started to be destroyed by simple but deadly drones that cost only a few $1,000s. This shift has led to a fundamental change in Russia's war doctrine. Advancing in large convoys has now become almost impossible. Roads are no longer just filled with mines. They are now filled with silent death from above. FPV drones have evolved from surveillance tools into direct attack weapons. And Ukraine has become an army that masterfully employs this new style of warfare. Russian tanks remain highly vulnerable to the variety of attacks launched by Ukraine using different types of equipment. In today's video, we will clearly see the reflection of this transformation on the battlefield. First, we will witness how a Ukrainian Leopard 1A5 tank levels village houses where Russian infantry are hiding. Then, we will move on to the rare moment when the Russian army attempts a major convoy assault once again after a long pause. Having remained on the defensive for months, Russian forces now take a risk and try to advance with armored vehicles. June 17, 2025. An operation of note took place in the village of Komar, located in the Donetsk region. A Leopard main battle tank belonging to the 5th Tank Battalion of the Armed Forces of Ukraine launched a direct attack against structures sheltering Russian infantry. The footage clearly shows the tank targeting Russian soldiers positioned inside civilian buildings in the village. Following a series of failed operations in recent weeks, surviving Russian units often retreat to such small, abandoned villages. Instead of withdrawing from the area, Russian infantry frequently hide inside village homes to avoid detection by Ukrainian forces. Their aim is either to be evacuated by their unit or to wait for reinforcements without engaging in combat. However, in practice, this tactic usually ends in failure, as the Russian army often cannot or does not send support units in these situations. Closely monitoring the situation, Ukrainian reconnaissance units detected this movement in Komar and accurately pinpointed the location of the Russian soldiers. A Leopard 1A5 tank was then dispatched to the area to initiate the attack. The tank opened heavy fire on the targeted houses, and within a short period, the structures sheltering Russian forces were completely destroyed. The intensity of the explosions and the tank's firing accuracy practically wiped enemy positions off the map. Although the footage does not clearly show the condition of the Russian soldiers, initial reports from the field indicate that all Russian elements hiding inside the house were neutralized. The operation once again showcased the Ukrainian army's reconnaissance and rapid decision-making capabilities while reinforcing the effectiveness of the Leopard 1A5 tanks on the front lines. June 19, 2025. The 36th Marine Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine is conducting a notable defensive operation near Konstantinivka in the Donetsk region, where intense fighting continues. Thanks to the intelligence and surveillance efforts of Ukrainian units, advancing Russian armored forces moving toward the area were detected. These forces aimed to infiltrate through weak points in the front line to break Ukrainian defenses and simultaneously damage logistical supply lines. During the infiltration attempt, the Russian units became targets of Ukrainian artillery. Rapidly initiated intense artillery fire resulted in the direct destruction of 3 Russian armored vehicles in the area. The explosions were so powerful that most of the vehicles became inoperable, turning the region temporarily into a field of wreckage. However, the fighting did not end there. Shortly afterward, another Russian armored convoy entered the area from a different direction. These new units were also quickly detected by Ukrainian defense systems. The 36th Brigade responded immediately to this new threat, similar to the previous attack. Artillery fire was resumed. The accurate strikes caused significant panic among the Russian forces. Although the vehicles attempted to change direction and reposition, Effective Ukrainian fire rendered this second armored group completely neutralized. Despite all these failed attempts, the Russian side did not cease its assaults. This time, another convoy consisting of 4 armored vehicles headed toward the area. The vehicles tried different maneuvers, seemingly learning from previous attacks in an effort to avoid being targeted. However, the effectiveness and target acquisition of the Ukrainian artillery were so high that these tactics failed. The strikes were again carried out with precision, and some of the attacking vehicles became vulnerable even before being hit. As a result of the intense bombardment, some Russian infantry dismounted from the armored vehicles and attempted to flee. This development altered the strategy of the Ukrainian forces. To prevent fleeing soldiers from posing a threat later on, priority was given to completely destroying the armored vehicles. The vehicles were rendered inoperable, thereby increasing the loss of military equipment and completely paralyzing Russian mobility in the area. The 54th Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine is conducting a notable operation against a small Russian infantry group in the Donetsk region. Although the intensity of fighting in the area occasionally decreases, small Russian units continue to move through the forests and open terrain. This time, however, the group becomes the target of Ukraine's advanced reconnaissance and attack capabilities. The operation begins during patrols by Ukrainian reconnaissance drones in the area. Drone operators spot a small Russian infantry group advancing across open terrain. According to the footage, the Russian soldiers are unaware of the threat nearby and continue their march comfortably, unaware of the drone's presence. Ukrainian operators initially choose to observe, analyzing the target's movement direction and numbers. After a while, the Russian soldiers notice the drone hovering above and panic, opening fire. As a result of the intense gunfire, the first Ukrainian reconnaissance drone is shot down. However, this does not mean Ukrainian forces are retreating. In fact, the attack is just beginning. Within minutes, a new FPV attack drone is launched into the area. Although this new drone quickly approaches the target, it fails to achieve a direct hit and crashes into the ground, exploding. The Russian soldiers survive this second attack and continue their march. However, Ukrainian drone operators remain patient and continue careful tracking. Suddenly, a third attack begins. This drone approaches at a lower altitude and launches a sudden strike. One Russian soldier is hit directly and neutralized. Following this loss, the morale of the group falters. The surviving soldiers quickly try to take shelter in nearby ruins. From this point on, Ukraine's tactical superiority becomes clear. The soldiers hiding in the ruins are detected, and the FPV operators target not only the soldiers, but also the equipment they carry. One of the drones lands close to the shelter and destroys the ammunition used by the Russian soldiers. Only a few Russian soldiers remain at the target. The drone operator carefully monitors their positions and directs another FPV drone for an attack. While the drone is positioning near the shelter, a Russian soldier steps out and opens fire on the drone. The drone withstands the fire briefly before silently landing. The soldier panics, approaches, and attempts to grab and throw the drone away. At that exact moment, the drone explodes. The blast kills the soldier instantly. The remaining Russian soldiers are similarly identified one by one and neutralized. June 18, 2025. The 13th Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard carried out a notable operation in the northeastern direction of Kharkiv, inflicting heavy losses on Russian forces. In response to the increased Russian military activity on this front recently, Ukrainian units delivered an effective counterattack and strengthened their control over the area. At the beginning of the operation, reconnaissance drones and surveillance systems deployed in the region detected Russian infantry units positioned nearby. These forces were waiting concealed in trenches or under natural cover. However, Ukrainian forces deployed FPV attack drones to launch direct strikes on these targets. The footage shows drones being guided with millimeter precision to hit enemy targets with exact accuracy. In the initial wave of attacks, a large number of Russian infantry were neutralized. Not stopping there, Ukrainian forces also succeeded in locating shelters used by Russian soldiers for concealment. Precision strikes on underground structures and fortified positions completely destroyed these facilities. Thanks to modern target acquisition systems and drone-supported attack tactics employed by Ukrainian units, Russian elements quickly lost their shelter and defensive capabilities in the area. Throughout the operation, nearby roads and supply lines were regularly monitored and controlled. This greatly disrupted Russian logistical activities. Enemy convoys attempting to transport ammunition, fuel, and troops were either unable to pass through the area or suffered losses due to attacks. Ukraine's strategy not only impacted the fighting on the front lines, but also significantly weakened the Russian army's logistical capacity. According to data shared by the Ukrainian armed forces, at the end of the operation, 1 Russian tank, 8 different enemy vehicles, 12 artillery systems, and a total of 21 radar units were successfully destroyed. This represents a substantial outcome for a relatively short operation. Moreover, the success strengthened Ukraine's defensive line on the Kharkiv front and dealt a blow to Russian morale. June 18, 2025. During an operation conducted by Ukrainian reconnaissance units near Toretsk, one of the active conflict zones in the Donetsk region, a notable event took place. Recon teams affiliated with the Ukrainian army were carrying out a controlled operation to clear Russian positions and halt enemy advances in the area. At that moment, a sudden, brief movement was observed among the trees. A Russian soldier had left his trench and was cautiously changing position. However, he failed to realize that he was under close surveillance by Ukrainian forces. Although he tried to move low to avoid detection, a small movement glimpsed through the leaves gave away his location. Assessing the situation within seconds, the Ukrainian units acted decisively. Without even needing a command, their trained reflexes took over as they raised their weapons and opened fire on the target. The sound of gunfire echoing through the depths of the forest signaled the start of a short but deadly engagement. With the opening shots, the Russian soldier was neutralized. Unmanned aerial vehicle operators from the 38th Marine Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces carried out a remarkable reconnaissance operation near the village of Popiev Yar, located in the eastern part of Donetsk Oblast, a region that has seen increased military activity in recent weeks. This area, characterized by dense forests, open fields, and natural ridges, has recently become a point of tactical significance for both Russian and Ukrainian forces. Situated in the northeastern part of Donetsk, Popiev Yar lies at the intersection of critical logistical routes and serves as a key transit point that impacts the depth of defensive lines. During their reconnaissance flights, Ukrainian UAV operators detected unusual military traffic in the area. Just outside Popiev Yar, they spotted a group of Russian infantry attempting to remain concealed, accompanied by armored support vehicles. Thanks to advanced thermal cameras and high-resolution optical sensors, camouflaged positions and temporary shelters hidden within the forest were identified and relayed back to command one by one. The operation against these detected targets was launched without delay. First, FPV attack drones were deployed to strike Russian positions with pinpoint accuracy. These drones didn't just target enemy troops. They also disabled communication lines and temporary ammunition depots. One of the armored vehicles hidden beneath camouflage netting was hit directly and destroyed. In the second phase of the operation, artillery units from the 38th Marine Brigade were brought into action. Using real-time target coordinates from UAVs, Ukrainian artillery launched strikes that destroyed Russian trenches and fortifications hidden in the forest. As a result of these strikes, the enemy's tactical advantage in the region was completely neutralized. Footage captured during the assault also shows several Russian soldiers attempting to flee in panic, only to become exposed targets in the open terrain. Ukrainian forces seized this opportunity to fully clear the area and push their defensive line even further around Popiev Yar. June 18, 2025. During a reconnaissance mission near the village of Orlivka in the Donetsk region, the 150th Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine identified several critically important Russian air defense systems. These systems posed a significant threat to the region's airspace and could seriously endanger the safety of Ukrainian aerial assets operating near the front lines. Therefore, it was crucial to immediately neutralize the detected targets. The first system identified was the Soviet-era short-range OSA air defense system. Ukrainian reconnaissance units confirmed through visual observation that the system was active and had been used recently. Once the position was precisely determined, Ukrainian artillery units quickly sprang into action. The coordinates were relayed to frontline strike teams, who launched an attack using highly accurate munitions. The OSA system was hit directly and completely destroyed. After the explosion, only twisted metal debris remained. However, the mission did not end there. Within the same operational zone, another air defense system, this time a Strela-10, was detected in a different direction. Despite being a short-range system, its mobility made it a serious threat to low-flying drones and helicopters. Ukrainian reconnaissance teams carefully tracked this target and transmitted its coordinates as well. The second strike was carried out with equal precision and was also successful, rendering the Strela-10 system inoperative. Since the beginning of the war, Ukraine has fought against Russia's powerful air defense systems using both creative and courageous tactics. In the early stages, Russia's advanced systems like the S-300 and S-400 exerted considerable pressure on Ukraine's air forces. However, over time, Ukraine, armed with intelligence, equipment, and weapon systems supplied by Western countries, developed a much more effective strategy to counter this threat. The Ukrainian military adopted a multi-layered approach to targeting Russian air defenses. This strategy involved the use of both traditional artillery strikes and precision-guided missiles. Strikes conducted with HIMARS systems, in particular, proved highly effective in targeting radar arrays and missile launchers, neutralizing them with great accuracy. Additionally, Ukraine's FPV drones made a significant impact on the battlefield. These low-cost and rapidly producible drones were capable of directly destroying radar units or mobile air defense elements located near the front lines. Another key element of Ukraine's counter-air defense efforts was the use of electronic warfare systems. With support from the West, Ukraine managed to jam Russian radar and air defense signals, weakening their ability to detect and engage targets. As a result, in some air assaults, Russian systems either failed to respond entirely or locked onto false targets, rendering them ineffective.